Next up tonight is Bob O'Regan for youth baseball. Bob was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, February 9th, 1914, was raised in Cincinnati, joined the Army in 1942, achieved the rank of Major before leaving the service in 1947. He arrived in San Diego in 1957 to be general manager of the old San Diego Coliseum. Bob was a minor league umpire, a field manager, and a front office administrator. He was employed by the U.S. Postal Service for 15 years. He served on the Pacific Beach Town Council for 20 years. He was a Major League scout for the Cincinnati Reds, Cleveland Indians, New York Mets, and Minnesota Twins until he passed in 1994. Bob established the North Shores Umpiring School in 1958, located at Mission Bay Youth Fields. He provided umpires for the league at the youth fields throughout San Diego County, and with few exceptions, the umpires were 14 to 17 years old. Bob trained more than 1,000 umpires before closing his school in 1983. He taught what it meant to be an umpire, how to manage a game and deal with coaches. Most importantly, Bob taught young umpires how to be men. To broaden the education and experience of young umpires, he had Major League Baseball umpires Doug Harvey, John McSherry, and Emmett Ashford come and speak and work with him. Among the alumni of the North Shores Umpiring School, Mike Winters, current Major League umpire, former American Association umpire Tom Blackman, current NC2A umpire Jim Garman, current college umpire Darren Alcalay, and Tom Abels, former NC2A umpire. I don't know whether it's a video of Bob O'Regan or not, but I understand we have a video.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jim Garman, and I'm a 1970s graduate of the North Shore Umpire School run by Bob O'Regan, whom we're honoring tonight. I wanted to give you 3 quick snippets about Bob. He was a very colorful person, very consistent, and very committed. Regarding the colorful piece, those of you who knew Bob knew he was quite a character. And as I think of him now, I can remember seeing him roaming around the grounds at Mission Bay youth fields, chewing on that cigar like it was going out of style. And at that point in time in my young life, I didn't like cigar smoke, but after a few years working with Bob, I kind of missed it when it wasn't around the ball fields. So I have to hand it for Bob in developing that in me. He was a colorful person, always willing to tell a story about his Irish Catholic background, and it would even make some of the priests at St. Bridget's in Pacific Beach blush. But he was just a colorful person with an umpire story or a baseball story. Bob was very consistent in his message and his mission. He was a very old school kind of Major League Baseball scout with the Minnesota Twins, but he was also had a love of officiating and umpires. His mission was to prepare, young people to umpire baseball, and he gave thousands and thousands of hours of his time to do this with the school, and together with Carlos Flores, Jay Brown, Gary Baylor, all those people instructed in the classroom and on the field. Bob really felt that if young people played baseball, they should also learn to officiate it and the life lessons that go along with that, which I think was very unique back then in San Diego and actually Southern California. Lastly, Bob was a very committed person. All of us try to leave the world a better place, but Bob was a great example of a visible impact, positive impact on hundreds of young people, young men that he trained, he coached, he mentored, and I was one of them. And I certainly received a lot of benefit from his coaching and mentorship as a graduate of his umpire school. He helped me get into the professional minor leagues, and as I progressed into Division I college baseball, his lessons of life commitment was very, very real to me. He was committed to his family, his religion, and his love of baseball and umpires. He's a very worthy recipient of the honor of the Hall of Champions and the San Diego Officials Umpires a group. I commend you guys for his recommendation and wish you all the best tonight. Thank you.
Tom Maples will accept the award on behalf of Bob's family.
I also was one of those kids. Bob, it's still hard to call him Bob. He told me I could call him Bob when I went back as an instructor, and 52 years later, I still can't call him Bob. He did supplement what our fathers were teaching us, how to be men. He didn't handhold us, he didn't mollycoddle us. He told us when we started, the schedule's going to be up in the umpire shack. It's up to you to find your schedule, work the game. All he did, he negotiated with the leagues for the fee. He got us, we were making $3 a game, which today is the equivalent of about $24, so we were doing pretty well. But it was up to us, again, check the schedules. If you missed a game, you knew you were in deep doo-doo with him. He actually listened to us. When I started, he was, looking at the program, he was 52 years old. He looked like he was 70, but he was only 52 years old. But when he was umpiring in the minors, everybody used an outside protector, the big balloon. So a couple of us realized that that was not the way to umpire. So we went to him, we asked him for a meeting, said, could you provide us with inside protectors? So unfortunately, he bought, if you're an old-time umpire, those old Wilson inside protectors who were about a foot thick and that funky color blue. He bought 2 of those. It didn't fit any of us. We were all so small that it knocked us over every time. But he did listen, and that's the way he was. As was mentioned, he would bring in Doug Harvey, John McSherry, John Kibler, and one of the highlights of my life still has been I had a 5 to 10 minute one-on-one conversation with Emmett Ashford, who was the nicest man I have ever met. He talked because of who Bob was, because he knew what Bob was doing. He just talked umpire to umpire. It wasn't older man to young kid. I'm so happy that Bob has been inducted in this. It's been a long time coming. It was a very sad day. That day I looked in the newspaper and saw that he had passed away. He was the equivalent of George Schutte with football. He did everything for us. And it's an honor to him that 3 of his boys, Mike Winters, Jim Garman, and I have been inducted into this Hall of Fame. That's him. I'm just sad he's not here to do that, and I'm sad he has no family left. In addition to him being on when we were all kids, in addition to him being on the Pacific Beach Town Council, his wife Dorothy was the mayor of Pacific Beach for a number of years, so they were very big in the community. And I just always thank him for everything he did for me. And Mike, thank you for, Mike and I taught the probationary baseball class for about 4 years together. We had a blast together. He was on my football crew a couple of times. Thank you for doing this. It's amazing. Thank you.